Okay, the time's just gone 10 o'clock. My name is Dan. I'm the founder of Excel Academy, and welcome to everybody who has joined us on this very, very chilly Tuesday morning. What is it? Are we Tuesday or Wednesday now? Lost track of time. Okay, whatever it is, it's pretty cold. The sun is coming out. I know that in the Kruger Park at the moment, it's actually going to be 30 degrees today. I looked at the weather forecast, but I think the rest of the country is pretty chilly. So it really is fantastic to be with you here this morning for this Financial Modeling World Cup SA Champs training session number 1. All right, we're going to be covering Excel modeling fundamentals and efficiencies. It's going to be very, very practical and hands-on. I'm just giving an intro right now. I see that 12 people have just entered the room since I started talking. So we did have 182 people register this morning. I was chatting to Rainier about it, and it has been an overwhelmingly positive response. I personally was expecting more like 50 to 60 people to register. So it's tripled that and more. And it really is fantastic. So thank you to everybody who has registered. This is the first of 3 sessions. The actual first round of the SA Champs starts in 3 weeks' time on the 30th of July. So I'm going to hand over to Rainier. We would love to hear from Rainier. He's going to give a little welcome and intro, and then we are going to dive into the actual masterclass session.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick introduction. Thank you for everyone that signed up. Like Dan said, it's been overwhelming, and it's quite welcoming that there's so many people that's interested in learning more about Excel. It's been a part of my world for the longest time. I currently work at Bidvest Advisory Services. We have a platform called Bidvest Alice, and Alice is the main sponsor of the South African Excel Championships. So if you haven't signed up to the Excel Championships yet, I'm gonna show a QR code a bit later, but you can just Google it. Just look for South African Excel Championships, and as Dan said, the first round is at the end of July. Dan and Avi is from Excel Academy, and I'm sure they'll speak a bit about themselves as well. But they've been training people in the use of Excel for a very long time as well, and been very successful at it as well. And they are some of our sponsors as well. So we're very, very happy to have them with us as well, and to learn a bit about these sessions. As Dan said, we'll have 3 sessions every Tuesday in the lead up to the South African Excel Championships. If you're a student or a young professional, you can also reach out to us. The QR code that I'm going to share on the screen a bit later on will have our email details as well. So if you're a student or a young professional, you can also reach out to us for a discount code. But yeah, very excited. I think we've already passed the numbers of signups from last year for the South African Excel Championships. So it's growing strength to strength. And yeah, I'm going to hand over to Dan and Avi to take us through today's session.
Hey, very exciting indeed. Thank you, Rainier. Thanks for the warm welcome. We need everything that's warm this morning on a cold day, except in Bucharest. So we actually have, we're full of surprises this morning because I wasn't expecting this many people, which is fantastic. It was a pleasant surprise. I also wasn't expecting anyone from Bucharest. So welcome to Iona Bunescu joining us from a 40 degrees Celsius Bucharest. And we've also got Anjali joining from India, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but we've got Rudina from Mumbai. We've got Famanonswa from Madagascar. This is, I think, the first time we have had a person on any of our training over the 11 years at Excel Academy, anyone from Madagascar. Okay, and Tananarivo, maybe. I know that that's the capital. Welcome to all the people joining us from Mumbai, from France, from Spain, from Bangalore, from Bengaluru. This is really quite phenomenal. So I'm glad that the word has spread far and wide, and we've got a truly national and international audience. So that's fantastic. We've also got my business partner at Excel Academy, Avi. He's also here, so I think you'll be seeing and hearing from him as well. In the meantime, he's in the background. He's going to be popping a link into the chat and the downloads for this morning's session. So this is going to be very practical. We learn best in Excel, in financial modeling, and in all spheres. We learn best by doing. When it comes to learning to ride a bicycle, for example, you can watch videos, you can watch webinars, you can look on YouTube, you can read books, you can talk to people, but until you get onto the bicycle, you're not really actually experiencing it and learning it. And that's exactly the principle that we apply today. So we are giving you downloads. Okay, there's a zipped folder to download. You can either download it using Dropbox, there's a Dropbox link, or a WeTransfer link, or Avi has very kindly put the actual file into the chat. All right. Okay, Avi might be looking for it on Dropbox. I think he's found it. There it is. Okay, so it's today's downloads. And please use one of those methods to download it, either Dropbox, WeTransfer, or the folder. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to click on the WeTransfer link. So I'll actually go through the process of downloading it so that you can see exactly what I see. I'm going to move the chat out the way so I can keep one eye on it. I'm going to share my entire screen. Let's get this right. Okay, share the correct screen because I've got two screens. Okay, let's move Zoom out of the way. Okay, I'm on the WeTransfer page and I'm going to click download. It's going to download it into my Google Chrome downloads right over there. I'm going to click show in folder. All right. And you'll see these are all of my downloads. Now I can go into this zipped file and you'll see that there is a financial model Excel file with today's date, the 9th of July. I have verified on my calendar that it is in fact Tuesday. And I was getting a bit confused there earlier this morning. All right, and you'll see that there are actually 3 keyboard shortcuts. There's also a rate card. If you are ever interested in knowing and exploring the actual full courses that we offer, you can have a look there. We're not going to look at that now. We notice here that we've got a keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet with 3 different versions, 3 options. So I'll show you what this is. I've actually got a hard copy. I always have it next to me right here. This is a keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet, and this is critical for general work in Excel, and especially in financial modeling and in the Excel champs, the financial modeling champs. You need to be working smart with the keyboard. We can't be wasting time and faffing around with the mouse. That's going to cost us significant valuable time. So one of the major themes in all of our training that we're going to be emphasizing over and over today is to work smart using the keyboard. So I think most of us are using Excel on a Windows computer. If you're using a Mac, that's fine. You can open up that keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet. Your life will be a little bit more difficult working on Excel and building models in Excel for Mac. So we don't recommend it, but there is a chance that some of you might be on a Mac. So you've got that option. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Windows-friendly shortcut cheat sheet. It's put it on the left-hand side of the screen. I've also got this annoying panel over here. So I don't really like this view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say menu, and I'm going to say view. And you'll see that read mode is Control H and full screen mode is Control L. So let's try read mode, Control H. There we go. It's gone into read mode. That's very nice. It gets rid of all the other clutter. And Control L might be even better for me because then it goes into full screen mode. Thank you to Avi for putting those shortcuts in the chat. He'll be popping the messages into the chat as we go with the keyboard shortcuts that we actually mentioned. And that way we're trying to make this as multi-sensory as possible. So I'm speaking, I'm telling you the shortcuts. I'm going to speak very clearly because I know that some of you are in foreign countries and English might not be your first language. So I'm going to speak very clearly. Sometimes I'll repeat myself. I'll do what I'm saying on the screen so you'll see it happening. And you'll also see the keyboard shortcuts appearing in the Zoom chat. So keep an eye on the Zoom chat. Okay. We would love to hear from you as we go, and we're going to be asking you certain things. Let's minimize that. But what we've done is we've made it such that you can post messages in the chat to us as the hosts and panelists, but not to other people, because we don't want the chat getting too busy. We want the main items on the chat to stay there and to be visible for you. All right. Bearing in mind, if you do have any questions along the way, please pop us a message in the Q&A box. So you'll see there's a Q&A section. All right. That's the question and answer box. The feature within Zoom. And we've also activated reactions. So we can't see your face. Even if your camera seems to be, your webcam is working. We can't see faces. This is a webinar, but we would love to get reactions from you. So what you can do at any point, and especially when we ask you for your how you're feeling, you can click on the Zoom reactions button and you can give all sorts of different emojis. And that's a great way for us to know that you're enjoying yourself, that the content is actually resonating with you. Okay, so I'm going to hold control and I'm going to scroll down. Okay, that doesn't seem to be working so well. There we go. Hold control and scroll up or down. And what that does is it zooms me in or out. So that's a great feature to use. You just hold the control key and you scroll with the wheel on the mouse. And you can go left and right on this PDF to go between page 1 and page 2. What we've done over here, we've been giving people access to this keyboard shortcut for a cheat sheet for a long time, for many years. And it's proved to be very, very valuable because this is a visual way to see the shortcuts. And you've got actual keys here. So we'll be going through a whole lot of these. And you've got alphabetical control shortcuts. Almost every letter in the English alphabet has a control shortcut. There's F key shortcuts as well. So I am very confident that this will be a very useful, handy resource for you now and in the future in all your Excel and financial modeling work. Another shortcut that's great is to toggle between different windows or applications. I can use Alt and Tab to switch between different windows or applications on my Windows computer. I use Alt and Tab, and I'm showing you here. I use Alt with my left thumb and Tab with my left index finger. And then I like to navigate around my File Explorer. This window that we're currently in is my File Explorer. You can see my location here. I'm in Users, Download, etc., and I'm currently in a zipped file. I'm in a zipped file at the moment. If I wanted to go one level up, one folder up, I can hold down the Alt key and press the up arrow. That takes me one folder up. All right, I'm now in downloads. I'm going to go into this zipped folder just as a reminder. This is the one that we all downloaded. And I'm going to open up the financial model spreadsheet with today's date. And we are going to be working together on this simple financial model. All right, the challenges, the cases in the actual rounds, the competitive rounds of the championships will be much more complex and sophisticated, but the overall principles will apply. So there's a number of principles. Firstly, one of our key principles, as I've mentioned, and I'm going to keep emphasizing, is efficiency. We want to be working smart. We want to be saving time and doing things the quickest way in Excel, just about in everything in Excel and beyond. There are multiple ways to do the same thing. We're going to be showing you a few different ways to do everything, but we're going to be encouraging you to use the most efficient way. All right, another principle is transparency. Another principle is flexibility. And we're going to be showing you some of those principles in action in this particular model. And as I've said, it is a simple financial model. It's a loan amortization schedule, but we're going to apply these principles into the model. All right, so first thing I do is I notice that I've got this yellow bar and it says files from the internet can contain viruses. I'm going to say enable editing. Why? Because I trust this. I know where it came from, and I'm going to open up the file. The next thing I see is that it's saved to the PC, but it's a read-only file. I want to actually save this in a location that makes sense. And this is a very important habit. I don't know how the championships actually work in terms of where you save things, but that's actually not relevant. The relevant point is that we want to save things in a place where it's backed up, it's on the cloud, it synchronizes across different devices. I don't know about you, but I use 2 different laptops. I want everything to synchronize. I want things to synchronize with Avi or anyone else that I'm sharing documents with. And I want to make sure that if anything happens, if my laptop or computer breaks or crashes or gets stolen, I've still got my work. So this is really important, right? We want to save our work in a folder that is backed up on the cloud. And if I go back for a moment, I press Alt and then I hold down Alt and I press Tab to go back to this cheat sheet. You'll see the very last, okay, sometimes we start at the beginning, here we're starting at the end. The very last shortcut on our cheat sheet is in fact F12, and that is for save as. Avi's put it in the chat. And another important point to note is that with these F key shortcuts like F1, F2, sometimes, depending on your settings of your laptop or keyboard, you might need to hold down the function key, that is FN, the FN key. Okay, FN key, I don't have one, but if you work on a laptop, you'll have an FN key, probably between the Control and the Alt, and you hold that FN key down, and then you press F12, and that will activate your save as. So let's go back here. I just need to press F12 once on my keyboard, And that opens up save as. Again, saves time, because otherwise you have to go file, save as, browse, and you have to click about 4 times, and that's valuable time. So here we're going to save this as. You can see it's given us a very strange looking location, this zipped folder, and that's because we shouldn't be working in a zipped folder and saving things in a zipped folder. A zipped folder is just for transferring files. Okay, so what you'll notice over here, and this is another really good trick, is that you can save folders or subfolders that are important to you and that you're using often. You can save it on your quick access in your file explorer, and you simply just right click on a specific folder and say pin to quick access, and then it will pin it here, or you can click and drag. All right, so I'm going to go into my FMWC session 1 with today's date. Here's my downloads folder. There's the actual file. All right, and here I've got it as copy of. So I'm going to stand at the beginning of the word financial. I'm going to press Shift Home to select all that text, delete it, go to the very end with the end key, and I'm going to put my initials because I want to know, and I want Avi to know that I've worked on this file. So I'm putting my little signature, my little stamp on this, and then I'll have the original file in its original format, and then my file. Okay. So now we've got that admin out of the way. We definitely want to start working on Excel and showing you actual techniques and best practices and efficiencies in the actual model. All right, but before we do that, let's have a look. We've got an inputs sheet here, and we've got a calcs sheet. Now, this is one of the best practices in modeling, is to have an inputs sheet. Sometimes people put their inputs embedded in actual formulas. I was told in my first job as an actuary 15 years ago that if my boss, he said, if he sees me putting an actual number inside a formula, I have to put 10 rands, that's our currency in South Africa, 10 South African rands in a special jar. All right, so that was a penalty. I had to pay a penalty if I put a number in a formula. So that got me into the mode of realizing that, hold on, when there is a variable or an input, it must be in its own cell, it must be in its own sheet, it must be labeled very clearly, and it must not sit as a number that's hard-coded into a formula. So this is a critical principle when it comes to modeling, and this comes down to flexibility and transparency. You want things to be transparent so that you and anyone else looking at your model can see exactly what's going on and can follow the flow of the model. All right, so that's the transparency element. And flexibility in that if you change a variable or an input or a parameter, that everything in the model will then change accordingly. All right. So it's about transparency and it's about flexibility. And we're going to be showing you that over the course of the session today. All right. Now we've got the input sheet and then we've got a calc sheet. I can also navigate between these different sheet tabs and save a bit of time by pressing Control and page down or Control and page up. Have a look at that. Control page up, Control page down. Now have a look at your keyboard. Once again, I don't want to waste too much time on this, but just to emphasize again, for those of you using small keyboards, maybe on a laptop, then your page up and page down keys might be shared with the up and down arrows. In that case, you have to press Control Function and up arrow or down arrow. Okay, so it's either Control page up or Control page down, or Control Function up or down. Okay, so you just have to look on your keyboard and make sure that you're comfortable with the layout and feel of your keyboard. You've got to get comfortable. You've got to know in the Financial Modeling World Cup, in the first round, which laptop are you going to be using, or which keyboard are you going to be using? What are the shortcuts? What are the specific settings? You want to make sure that you are comfortable with the setup, because otherwise it's going to cause you stress, anxiety, and lost time. All right, now guys, what are we doing? We are pretending that we're taking a loan. All right, so what should we buy? Should we buy a new car? Should we buy a new house? Should we buy a fridge? Should we buy, maybe Avi wants to buy a guitar because he loves music. He loves playing his guitar. We need to take a loan, and let's take a loan. So what I want you to do is tell me in the chat, firstly, what are we buying? And secondly, how much does it cost? Let's see what suggestions. Okay, Tanya says new house. Tanya Gupta, new house. Okay, excellent. And I see that Shreya says home as well. Okay, great. So we definitely want to buy a new home. That's great. Wow. Okay, we've got a guitar. We've got an Aston Martin. We've got some great suggestions here. But I'm going to go with Tanya Gupta. She wants to buy a house for $40,000. Okay, that's fantastic. So new house for $40,000, what we're going to do is we're going to populate the PV. That's the principal amount. That's the cost of the item. I'm going to put here 40,000. And you can see there's no formatting applied to any of these cells. That's perfect. They're all general. So we can apply whatever currency we want. I can come here and I can say this must be accounting number format. You will see that my default currency over here is rands, South African rands. Now, some of you are in Spain and you'll have euros, or if you're in France or Bucharest, your default currency will be euros. If you're in Madagascar, it'll be your Madagascan currency. If you're in India, it'll be your rupees. But we want to make this accurate and we want to stick to what the script is. So Tanya says dollars. So we're going to change this over here to dollars. If I wanted more accounting formats, I can do that. And I can get pretty much every currency under the sun. All right, including, you can see there, Bitcoin. Okay, so I'm going to just keep it simple. I'm going to go to dollars. There we go, $40,000. I could have used the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-4, but you'll see that puts it in currency format as opposed to accounting format. The currency goes on the far left-hand side. So I'm going to just stick with that, accounting format. So that is my principal amount. Now, on a home loan in your country, we've got people from all over the world. Tanya, let's ask Tanya, because Tanya told us new home for $40,000. What is the term of the loan? How many years is the loan going to be? And at the same time, I'm going to ask you, Tanya, what's the interest rate? All right, 10%, 8%, 10 years, 8% rate. Okay, so Tanya has said it's a 10-year loan, so we're going to put that in, 10 years, and the annual interest rate is 8%. This is great. All right, so we've got our three parameters, our three inputs, our three variables. I'm using the same word, they're all synonyms. But importantly, these are all factored, or these are all variables or inputs, values that can change potentially, and we might want to change them. So these are parameters, these are in our input sheet, and very importantly, these should have a specific cell style. All right, now you might have a convention that you like to put input cells in red text with a blue background. You might like pink text and a black background. It doesn't actually matter as long as you keep it consistent. I think that there might be financial modeling standards, global standards. I've seen somewhere that they put blue text. So for example, like blue text like that or like that. I personally like to use these built-in cell styles, and I was trained like this in my job. And you can see here on all versions of Excel across the world, it is consistent with this, that you've got good, bad, and neutral. You've got data and model over here, and you've got title and headings and number format. So if you have a look here, there is this orangey pink input cell style. Okay, so if we hover over that, we get a preview, and you've also got output cell styles or calculation cell styles. Those are cells with a check cell or warning text, explanatory text, linked cell, note cells. So these are Excel's standardized modeling conventions for cell styles. So I'm going to use input. I like that. I know across all my models, it will always be that these are the input cells. I can visually see it. There's no mistaking that cell. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing here, and I can save a bit of time by holding Control and clicking on separate cells. So when you want to select multiple different ranges of cells, okay, especially when they are not connected to each other, the Excel geeky term for that is contiguous. All right, so these are non-contiguous cells. All right, like this and this. We can click on the first one and then hold Control and click on the next one, and then we can go and click the input cell, or we can actually just press Control Y to redo what we've just did in the previous cell. All right, or F4. Okay, so F4 is a keyboard shortcut for redoing what we just did. Undo is Control Z, and redo is Control Y. Okay, so these are, again, great shortcuts for doing what we just did. Okay, save us some time. We don't have to then click and go and waste time doing that. We want to be as mouse-free as possible. Right. Okay, great. Avi's putting the shortcuts in the chat, and that's great. And Rainier actually says he also uses those styles, so that's good news. Okay, so Rainier's given his stamp of approval there. All right, so for the monthly interest rate, guys, here we are assuming an 8% annual interest rate compounded monthly. So we don't have to do any fancy conversion calculations. This is not an 8% effective. It's an 8% annual interest rate compounded monthly, meaning we can simply do what? We need a formula that takes the annual interest rate cell and divides by 12. We just want to divide it by 12, and there you can see we get 0.666 recurring percent, and we want to change this into percentage format, and you'll see here there is a great keyboard shortcut for changing to percent style, Control Shift percent, and the percent symbol is above the number 5, but it's not 1%. 1% is actually that's misleading because it's rounding, so we want to add a couple of decimals, and there when we see 0.67, okay, we only need 2 decimals, so we've got 0.67%. Now, let's have a look back at our cheat sheet, because this is really useful. You will see that under formatting cells on the bottom of the first page of your cheat sheet, you've got Control Shift and all these different numbers. Now, this is great because modeling and Excel in general involves numbers. Invariably, you've got numbers, and you've got numbers with different number formats. You've got dates, you've got percentages, you've got ordinary numbers, you've got currencies, accounting format, custom number format. So there are shortcuts for all of these, and this will save you a lot of time. So we've got Control, Shift, and 5 for percentage format. 4 has a little dollar symbol above, so that's for currency. 3 with the hash, and take note that your keyboard might be different. For example, in India or Madagascar or Spain, your shortcuts on your keyboard might be different, because what you need to do for a date format is you need Control and the hash symbol. Sometimes people call it a pound symbol. It's that hashtag, like on Instagram or X, you've got the hash symbol. So if your hash is somewhere else on your keyboard, you need to be pressing Control hash. So the reason we've got a shift is because shift gets us from 3 to hash. Okay, so Control, Shift, and hash. Okay, and for time, if you want to change it into time format, it's not as common as dates, but you've got Control, Shift, and the @ symbol. So Control @. I know that on some keyboards, your @ symbol is somewhere else. Control, Shift, and exclamation mark is for number format with 2 decimals. And then to get back to general number format, you need to press Control and this squiggle symbol, the squiggle. And on my keyboard, it's Control, Shift, and squiggle, which is the key that's to the left of the number 1. Okay, so have a look at where it is on your keyboard. Okay, if the term in years is 10 years, according to Tanya. All right, so the term in years is 10. How many months do we have? That's very simple maths. We're going to take B4. How am I doing this? I'm putting an equal sign. I'm going up with the up arrow, and I see that I've got blue for B4, and I've got this dashed box line around that cell, and then I multiply by 12. Okay, so multiplying by 12, and I know that the term of the loan is 120 months. All right. Okay, if it's $40,000, the term in months is 120 months, and it's a monthly interest rate of 0.67%. What is my annual payment? Who can tell me in the chat what formula or function or calculation or technique can I use to calculate my monthly repayment on the loan? Gives me a chance to get you to think and also to have a sip of my coffee. All right, guys, I'm waiting to hear from you in the chat. What is the formula or function to use to, brilliant, Jayesh. Excellent, equals PMT, great stuff, well done. And Alicia as well. Okay, Ziar Rahman, you've said P times R times T over 100. That's an interesting approach. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to over there, but I am going to be using the PMT function. Now, when it comes to Excel formulas, you've got functions, you've got a whole function library over here. You can look through this in your own time. This is useful for modeling. You can look through it, all these financial functions. For example, $FR, what in the world is that? Okay, it converts a dollar price expressed as a decimal number into a dollar price expressed as a fraction. Okay, so it takes a decimal into a fraction. All right, that might be useful in some line of work that you might be doing at some stage. All right, maybe not. Okay, so FV is the future value of an investment based on these different variables. And you can see that we've got variables that sit inside the brackets. And if I scroll down, then I've got the PMT. Okay, so there's the PMT function. I've got 5 arguments or variables inside the brackets. It says it calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate. Okay, so let's keep it simple. We're going to type this in. We're going to say equals PM. There we go. After typing PM, notice it's lowercase. I could be typing in uppercase or lowercase, doesn't matter. I then press tab. Okay, that's an important one. Pressing enter will give us an error because Excel will think we're done, but we're not done. We just want to activate and go into the next phase of building this function. So we use tab to activate that function. Okay, and now we need to put in a rate. It's asking for a rate. Look at the prompt over here. This is called the syntax. This is the notation. All right, the language that the function understands is firstly to put in a rate. Now, what is the rate? We need to keep everything consistent. So this is a really important principle in financial modeling. You need to keep everything consistent in terms of, if you're working with monthly, everything needs to be monthly. If you're working with annual, everything needs to be annual. If you're working quarterly, everything needs to be quarterly. If you're working daily, I remember building some models years ago that took daily interest into account because banks calculate interest daily, every single day. They look at what your account balance is, and there's interest that's applied to that. So you need to then work out the daily interest and apply interest to the balance every single day. All right, so you have to keep things consistent. It's a really important principle. So here we're working with the monthly interest rate, which we know is 0.67%. So that's cell B3. I'm then going to put a comma. There is a chance that on your version of Excel, you have to put a semicolon. All right, so just have a look there, and you can change that in the settings. It's quite quick and easy. Just Google that, how to change your list separator from a comma from a semicolon to a comma. And then you can also change your decimal separator. You can see here my decimal point is a point as opposed to a comma. So you want to make sure that you got those settings correct. I know that when you get a new computer or new version of Excel, often the default for a decimal place is a comma, all right, a decimal point. And then people can't work out why their numbers are coming up as errors and as text, and they get very confused. So that is an important principle. I don't want to get too derailed with that. I want to focus on what we're doing here. So just be aware of that. Here, I follow the syntax over here, which says comma between every field over here. Okay, N per. Now, I don't know what N per is. All right, I don't know if you know. I actually do know, but I'm pretending that I don't know. So what is N per? This is an important point. If I click on it, it doesn't help me. It doesn't come up with anything. What I can do at this point is I can actually click on this little FX button over here, or I want to work on the arguments. All right, I want to work on the arguments here. So at this point, I think it will work. It actually won't work if I press Control A. Okay, that doesn't work there. What I can do is I can press insert function, takes me into the function arguments, where it gives me a step-by-step guide. All right, this is like a wizard. This is really important and helpful. And once you get the hang of working with lots of different functions in Excel, you probably won't need this much. But when you're getting into the hang of it, this is very helpful because you can take any function and you can actually see exactly how it's made up. All right, so N per is the total number of payments for the loan. Okay, that's great. That's great. That helps me. Now I know there are 120 payments. So I'm going to click on B5. I can build the function.
And just to jump in, yeah?
Yes, Avi.
Just to say good morning and to prove that I'm a real person, yeah? How do I spotlight myself? Just to show my face. There we go. Okay, good morning. Yeah, I thought what would be valuable just to clarify that there is that you mentioned Control A, Dan. I think people would really appreciate seeing how that shortcut works. It's very, very useful. So it will just have to mean redoing that first argument, which is easy. So basically, when you're at the point where you've got equals the function name and an open bracket, if you at that point press Control A, and it's easy to remember because it's A for function arguments, then that's an easy way to get that. It's like an assistant, which, as Dan showed us, just will guide us through what each of the arguments means if for some reason we're not sure. So,
okay. Brilliant.
That's just a small one from me.
Great stuff. Thank you, Av. And you and Rania must please feel free to turn the camera on and add your spotlight and give us some input from your side at any point in time. Okay, so guys, let's rebuild this. That's a great thing because now we've seen that Control A in action and now we can rebuild this from scratch. So again, it's just making sure that everyone is with us. By the way, this whole session is being recorded and will be made available That was one of the requests from Rainier. I think he's going to be loading it on YouTube and then sending you the YouTube link. All right, so you will have access to the recording and the download, so you'll be able to practice as much as you want. Okay, so what is the rate? The rate is 0.67. Remember, we're keeping things consistent. This is the total number of payments, which is 120. And then the PV, the present value amount, is this amount in this cell, which is B6. And there we go. I can see the answer. I can see the values of each of these input or arguments in the brackets. And then I see that the payment calculation is coming to minus 485.31. All right, this is another important principle when it comes to financial modeling, is that in Excel's brain, money in and money out have opposite signs. So if you're putting money into an investment, that might be a positive sign, and then the money that you get out is a negative sign, or vice versa. In this case, what are we doing? We're getting $40,000, and therefore we are paying $485 out every month to repay the loan. So that's why it's coming up as a negative. If you want it to come up as a positive, which is there's a good probability that you do want it to reflect as a positive value there, then what we're going to do is we're going to pop in a little minus sign behind the B6. So it's negative 40,000 in the calculation. And there the answer is 485. We click OK, and there we go. It's given us rands. Not sure why. We need to convert it into dollars. We don't want to use Format Painter here, because if we did Format Painter, it's a great tool, but it's going to put the input cell style over there, which we don't want. We don't want the orange. We do want the dollars. So what we're going to do is, okay, we've clicked accounting. Still got it as rands. So there we go. We're going to do it as dollars. All right, guys, there is a keyboard. It's not a keyboard shortcut. It's a key on the keyboard. That's an absolute game changer. If you've never used this, you're going to absolutely love it. And I strongly recommend that you start embracing it. It is a magic key on the keyboard. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to let me know in the chat, what is this magic key that I'm talking about that can activate the whole ribbon? And that can mean that you actually don't need a mouse at all. What is the key on the keyboard that can activate the entire ribbon? Okay, 10 points for anyone who can give me the answer in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, Rainier said F2. That's a good idea, but F2 goes into the cell. F2 is not going to be activating the entire ribbon on the keyboard, on the screen. The key that I'm after is Alt. Okay, guys, have you ever used the Alt key? All right, maybe you've pressed it by mistake. All right, if you like that, or if you've made a mistake and by mistake pressed Alt and wondered and panicked, wondered what this is, you can let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. If you do use the Alt key, let us know as well. We'd love to hear. All right. For me and Avi, we're using it all the time. What we've done is we've actually personalized our quick access toolbar. You'll see here all borders, auto fit column widths. I've got a macro over there. I've got clear filters. I've got a whole lot of these. For example, I've got grid lines. I have removed grid lines. That's why my spreadsheet over here looks so neat and tidy. I know that Avi loves to remove grid lines because he thinks that it looks a whole lot neater, which I agree with. So what you'll see is that we have, well, on my version of Excel, I've actually put the grid lines button over here on the quick access toolbar. And in order for me to click that button, I don't need to use the mouse. I can just now press the number 6. All right, so Alt 6 is a quick way, the quickest way, in my opinion, and in my experience, to actually show or remove grid lines. So just to show you quickly, for example, if I want wrap text, I've already got it there. If I want merge and center, which I'm not going to because I hardly ever use this, I would right click and say add to quick access toolbar, and there it appears. So you can personalize your own quick access toolbar, which I encourage you to do. And you can show it above the ribbon. That's where it typically appears, above the ribbon. Or I can right click and say show below the ribbon, where I've got more space. So it actually tells me what each button is. All right, so this will save you a lot of time. Okay. Okay, so Aniki says she panicked a lot about this in the past. Okay, good. Glad that we've prevented any future panic when it comes to this magic Alt key for you, Aniki, and maybe for other people watching us right now. Okay, so guys, now that we've got our values, we know that it's $485 a month. There's our principal amount. We are going to be building a whole schedule in the next 20 minutes with the 120 months down the first column. We're going to have the capital outstanding at the start. We're going to show the payments that's made, and we're going to have the interest portion and the capital portion, and then the capital outstanding at the end of the month. So what this will do is it will be a month-to-month calculation of what this loan value starts at. It's going to start at 40,000, and then after 120 months, it should be fully repaid, because that's the nature of this function. The PMT function is calculating a payment that we need to make monthly in order to get the balance of the loan down to 0, so that at the end of 10 years or 120 months, we are debt-free. We've paid the bond, we've paid the loan, we've paid all the interest, we own the house, we don't owe anything on the house. So that's the idea here. And I'm going to go back to the input sheet tab, because before we, okay, in fact, at this point, you notice that we do have grid lines, and that's fine for now. We'll get rid of them a little bit later. That's just an aesthetic element. What we can do is we can start to build out our projection. So we know that we've got month number 1 and then month number 2. How do I get a list of all these months all the way down to 120? Let me know in the chat. You can do it on your Excel, on your file right now, and let me know in the chat, how do I get this? Do I have to go 3, 4, 5, or is there a quick, easy way to get a list from 1 to 120? Okay, so Manish has said a sequence. Exactly, okay. Control G, select 1 and 2 and drag. Okay, Valencina, thank you. Where are you joining us from, Valencina? Your name sounds either Spanish or Portuguese. We'd love to know where you are. What you can do is exactly that. Thank you for saying select 1 and 2 and click on the bottom right hand corner and drag. And you can see there's 14, 15. I can see just above my mouse cursor. It actually shows me a preview. So I can then drag a little bit further down. It speeds things up. There's 119. I actually need to go into row number 121, and there's my list from 1 to 120. By the way, I get autofill options. So if I said copy cells, then it will say 1, 2, 1, 2 all the way down. I am going to say full series. Okay, so anytime you drag down or you double click down, if there's a list on the left or the right, you can just double click and it fills it all the way down. And yeah, then you've got your autofill options. Okay, when you're working with dates, you've got even more options. So that's a very handy efficiency trick there. All right, the capital outstanding at the very start on day 1 as you get the house is the 40,000. Now, we're not going to type 40,000 here, because then we'll have to pay 10 South African Rand into that jar, because that is hard coding. In this case, not a formula, but it's hard coding the actual model. We don't want to hard code the model. We don't want inputs. We don't want actual hard coded numbers here. We're going to delete that. Instead, we want a reference. So we're just going to say equals, and we're going to flick across to the input sheet tab. Here, again, I'm using that keyboard shortcut control and page up. So control and page up to flick here. And then I can just use my arrow keys to navigate around. So if I press down, it starts me off in cell A1. Here I am. I'm using the arrow keys. I'm comfortable with it. And I'm going to go down to B6. And there you can see that it's inputs, exclamation mark B6. So it's the input sheet and it's cell number B6. All right, now guys, this is all fine. This is perfect. It works. It makes sense. I haven't made any errors, no mistakes. It's all good. But I'm actually not doing things the best way in terms of modeling. So let's go back to this sheet over here. The best way to actually build a model is with maximum flexibility and maximum transparency. All right, and maximum efficiency. And part of maximizing all of these things is actually to name our ranges. All right, maybe you've used dollar symbols in formulas before where you want to lock a reference, use an absolute reference, but naming ranges is actually much, much better. And I'm going to show you how this works. And I think you're going to love it. And Renier is going to agree with me, because we discussed this before the session, that this is a key principle to use in any cases, in any modeling that you do. Name your ranges, because it makes life much, much easier. So what do I mean? This 8% cell is our annual interest rate. So I see here that this name in the name box is B2. I can click there and I can create my own name. So I can type interest rate annual, but I've made a mistake because I've put a space in between the words. And when I press enter, it will tell me I must have a valid name for the selection. So I can't have spaces. So I could make an abbreviation to save time and just say interest annual, but I might not understand that at some point in the future, and I'm using a special code. And to be honest, I'd rather do things properly and comprehensively. I like to do things very clearly, so there's no doubt, no confusion, no ambiguity whatsoever. So I can type interest underscore rate underscore annual, or I can save time and I can actually go to the formulas tab, and you'll see here on define names, this group, I can say define name. Okay, I click on define name, and there we go. It says interest rate annual with underscores, and then the scope is this workbook, and the reference is the input cell $B, $2, input sheet $B, $2. I click OK, and there we go. I now have a reference, a named reference for that particular cell, and I can do something similar for the monthly interest rate. I can also say define name, but I'm going to press escape because I want to show you an even faster way to do this. The quickest, easiest way to do this in one go is to say, I've got these 5 names over here, and I've got these 5 cells over here next to them. So I want to give this cell a name based on this label, and this cell a name based on this label, etc., etc., etc. All right, so the way we do it is we select all the 5 names down the left and all the 5 cells on the right. We select them all, and then you'll see there's create from selection. The shortcut key is Control Shift and F3. If you need to use that function key, you'll need very agile, mobile, flexible fingers so that you can do Control Shift Function and F3. All right. Okay, it's like playing Twister with your fingers. Okay, for me, I just need to press Control Shift F3, or if you want, you can click on that button. There's no problem with that. You know what we say and how we feel about keyboard shortcuts. Control Shift F3, and here we've got create names from selection, and the names will be applied from values in the left column. So that's exactly spot on. Okay, so on the left-hand side, we've got our names. I see Avi's turned his camera on. He maybe wants to add something here.
Yeah, I do. Just to remind everyone, I'm sure many of you know this, but just in case you don't, if you're having to press FN every time you want to get F1, F2, F3, F4, etc., then on most laptops, you can actually lock in the FN key. It's 99%. Some laptops don't, but just to show you with my webcam here, you can see that you have the option of locking in your FN. You don't have to press it every time. So just, I'm sure many of you know this, but in case you don't, typically you'll press FN and escape to lock in the FN button, which then means you don't have to press FN every time you want to get to one of the F keys on your keyboard.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Av. That's a great tip. A great tip. So thank you for that, Av. And that will save you time and frustration. Okay, so guys, what have we done? We have, let's go over this again. All right, how did I just do this so quickly? I'm using Shift and the arrow keys to select cells. Okay, so I just press Shift and the right arrow key, and then I used Control Shift down. Okay, Control Shift down to select and jump. So let's just go over this again. Control and the arrow keys is to navigate me quickly to the start or end of a bunch of data. Control and the arrow keys. I can jump to the top, bottom, left, right, even to the bottom of Excel. Did you know that Excel has 1,048,576 lines in a spreadsheet? Okay, I'm going to press Control up to get back up. All right, so I can select and jump by pressing Control Shift and the arrow keys, and then I use the keyboard shortcut Control Shift F3, and it's the same as clicking this button, create from selection, and it's creating names from values in the left column. And now if I go and stand on any of these individual cells with these values, I can see that each of them has a name. So I've got interest rate annual, which I did manually or using that define name button. And now I've got interest rate monthly, I've got term in years, I've got term in months, I've got principal amount PV, and I've got payment monthly. So when I go back to my calcs, instead of saying equals and then having to go to the input sheet and click on it and maybe lock it in with the dollar signs using F4, I can actually just say equals, all right? And I can, if I know that that name of that cell with the 40,000 was principal amount, I can just start typing P equals PRIN, and there it is. There it is. You can see that functions have a little FX with a circle, and names have this little icon over here, principal amount, PV. I can press tab, enter, and there we go. Okay. The payment, let's show you how this works for payment. Equals, now I can't remember what the name of the cell with the payment. It might be monthly payment, it might be installment amount, it might be payment amount, I can't remember. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point is I want to put in a name, all right, and I want to see a list of all the named ranges that I've got. So what I do is I press F3 on my keyboard, and then I can paste in a name. All right, so there I've got the 6 names that I've created. And what do I want? I want the payment monthly. Okay, so I can click on that one, or I can move around with the arrow keys and press enter, equals payment monthly, boom. There is my payment. All right, guys, now that payment, the $485, is made up of partly interest that I'm repaying the bank, and partly capital that's chipping away at the amount that I actually owe the bank. All right, so the interest portion is, how do you work out how much interest you owe someone? You say, how much money do I owe you and what's the interest rate? So if I calculate the capital outstanding on day one, I owe the bank $40,000 at this point. Okay, so it's cell B2, all right? And I multiply it by the monthly interest rate. So for this period of time, for this particular month, for month number one, I owe the bank interest on $40,000 at what interest rate? Okay, again, I'm going to press F3 and I'm going to activate this interest rate monthly, press enter. So I've now got B2 times interest rate monthly, press enter. And now I know that $266 out of the 485 is actually paying the bank interest, which is for the privilege of using their money. All right, we're actually paying them a fee in terms of interest for using their money. The rest of the amount that I'm paying to the bank, because remember, I'm giving them $485, the rest of it is in fact chipping away at the capital that's outstanding. So I say 485, which is cell C2 minus 266, and I know that I'm chipping away at $218 of the capital. So the capital outstanding at the end is equal to 40,000 on day one minus the $218 that I chipped away. All right, so I've got 39,781. Then I can come to the beginning of the second month and I can say that that's equal to that, okay, which is F2. Okay, so it's cell F2. I clicked with my mouse. I could have moved with my arrows. I also could have typed it in with my keyboard. All right, so there it is. Now, guys, we're building this out step by step by step. We've gone for the first month, then we'll build for the second month, etc., etc., etc. But it actually, in my opinion, and I think Renier will agree, I think everyone will agree, that it's actually better to work in table mode. All right, when we're building out a cash flow projection or we're working with a data set in Excel. What do I mean by table mode? If I go to the insert tab up at the top of the ribbon, I'm wary of time. I know that we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left, but it's okay because I know that you guys are going to join us same time, same place, same link next week. All right, and we're going to carry on from where we left off as opposed to trying to rush and cram and finish within the hour now. So I am going to continue going, but I'm not going to rush. And I'm going to keep in mind that we can revise next week for a couple of minutes what we've done today, and we can also then continue on from where we left off. But on the insert tab, I've got a table button, the third button on the insert tab says table. You'll see there's a keyboard shortcut, Control and T, and it says create a table to organize and analyze related data. Makes it easy to sort, filter, and format data within a sheet. So all I need to do is stand somewhere on any of the cells that have something in it. I don't want to stand there or there in no man's land. I'm going to stand there. I'm going to press Control T, and you can see it has given us a green dashed box around the whole sort of area from A1 to F121. I press enter and I wait patiently. There we go. Press enter, and there we go. There's our table. All right. And you can see that what it's done is it's formatted our whole data set really nicely. So it's defaulted to this blue and white, which you might not like, but you can play around with that. You might prefer black and white and gray or orange. I personally like this blue, or you might like this orange. Okay. What this means is it actually makes it much easier to read because you can see line by line, I've got alternating white and gray lines or stripes. They're actually called banded rows. I can turn them on and off. Notice that this is a contextual tab, right? So this contextual tab, you'll notice here, is actually only when you're in context. So if you stand outside of your table, okay, if you stand outside of your table, it will actually go away. So this is really important. Anytime you're working with any object within Excel, be it a table, a pivot chart, a normal chart, a slicer, an image, a shape, whatever it is, when you're on that particular object, you get 1 or 2, or maybe sometimes 3 contextual tabs. All right, and that means you get a whole lot of buttons and features which relate to this particular object. And you'll see as you go, and as we go, that it actually makes life much easier when you're working in table mode because the calculations all are much more intuitive, much more efficient. It helps to reduce the risk of error, and you'll see this as we go. All right, so what I've done is I've got the principal amount. Let's just recap this quickly. Equals principal amount PV. Then I've got payment monthly. Okay. This, by the way, payment monthly must be all the way down, because every single month, as long as the interest rate doesn't change and the terms of the loan are such that we've got a fixed monthly amount, it's going to be the same all the way down. So we double click on the bottom right-hand corner. Somebody earlier, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Valencina, said select 1 and 2 and drag down. This time we just had with the 1 and we double clicked on the bottom right-hand corner. It went all the way down to the bottom. How did it know how far to go? We press Control down and you can see it went to the bottom of the table. By the way, I'm currently at the bottom of the table, but I see that my headings are displayed. So that is an automatic freeze pane, and that is one of the wonderful features of working in table mode. All right. Okay, guys, so that's one of the great features of working in table mode. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the interest portion column. Okay, and the interest portion calculation is B2 times the interest rate monthly. I'm going to rebuild this and I'll show you why. What I can do is I can double click down. Okay, and that's perfect. It's extended that calculation all the way down, but I'm going to undo that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild this calculation for revision purposes and also to show you the difference when I do it inside a table. What do? I say it's $40,000 outstanding at the start of the month, but instead of B2 at this point, it's actually giving me a reference to a particular field in the table, and it's given me that heading over there. So it says equals the capital outstanding at the start of the month. Okay, it's more descriptive, more clear, it's more transparent than if it's just B2, all right? And I'm multiplying it by the INT, okay? And I go down to interest rate monthly. There it is. I didn't need to press F3. I can just, if I remember what those first few letters are, I can type them in. I see and I can see visually which ones are functions and which ones are names. So there's my name. I press tab, I press enter. And what I can do is I can overwrite all cells in this column with this formula. Sometimes, and generally speaking, it should actually auto-populate all the way down. Here, it's double checking with us. Okay, so we've said override. So there we go. We've got our entire column. Now, capital portion is C2 minus D2. We can rebuild this for revision purposes again, but also to demonstrate that we want the payment minus the interest portion. So there again, very clear, because instead of cell references, we've actually got words. So it's the payment minus the interest portion. I press enter. And again, I'm going to override all cells in this column with that formula. And then the capital outstanding at the end of the month, once again, I'm going to rebuild this B2 minus E2. So it's equal to the capital outstanding at the start of the month minus the capital portion of the repayment. And again, I'm going to override all cells. And then this is not looking so good. It's not looking so accurate. The interest portion shouldn't be 0 over there. And that's because I need to extend this formula down. So this, if I double click, or I could go into the cell using F2 on my keyboard. It just so happens that this reference is F2 as well. Okay, what I'll do is I'll press escape and I will double click down, and you can see then I've got this capital outstanding at the start of the month going down. I can see the values going down, down, down. I can see that the payment remains constant. The interest portion is also going down. The capital portion is going up, and the capital outstanding at the end of the month should be 0. It looks like it's 1.36 times 10 to the minus 11. So that is as close to 0 as we're going to get it. And last but not least, before we wrap up today, is we want to format these columns. All right. So I want to show you that we can format all of these cells in columns. Which columns? B, C, D, E, and F in currency format by using a couple of keyboard shortcuts and doing this very quickly and efficiently. I'm going to start off. I could do Control A, but I don't want everything to be selected and formatted because these I don't want in dollars. All right. But I can select this entire column. This is a great keyboard shortcut. It's also on your cheat sheet. Let's press Alt Tab quickly. You'll see here Control Spacebar to select the entire column. We always say the spacebar is on your keyboard, the biggest key, but it's also the place where aliens go to have a drink after a long day, at the spacebar. And then we can press Shift arrow right a few times to column F, and then press Control Shift and 1 to format these values as numbers with 2 decimals. We might want dollar symbols in all of them. In that case, we can format them as currency. Okay, and when we press Control down arrow, you can see that that funny looking number in the bottom right cell is now displaying as 0.00. Okay, so I can press Control Home to go back up to cell A1. I can save my work. I should have been saving my work more frequently. I got a bit distracted. It's an important thing to keep saving your work. Control S to keep saving your work. Make sure you don't lose it. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And next week, we are going to continue. When this is the first time we're actually doing these 3 training sessions in partnership with Rainier and the team. So we said that we would see how it goes. All right, so I think today's been very, very interactive and fun. I think you guys have enjoyed it. We'd love to hear from you through a reaction. I see a few hands clapping. I see some thumbs up and some hearts. Give us a reaction there. If you want to actually type something, please do that now. You can type a message to everyone if you want. I'll open up the chat. Let us know what you thought. What was your favorite part of the session? Was it valuable? What was your favorite thing that you've learned? And as always, let us know if you have any questions. The Q&A box is open as well. And yeah, we are going to be continuing next week where we left off and doing some more exercises and cases. And right now, you're actually seeing a screen share from Rainier. Thanks for putting the QR code up. And Rainier, maybe just you can unmute and just tell us just some closing words and thoughts here.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Thanks. I want to thank you. I want to thank you and Avi for the great session. I mean, what's always interesting to me is with these Excel sessions, even though I've been working in Excel almost exclusively for over 10 years, I always learn something new, and I actually learned a couple of new things today as well. So thank you for that. Yeah, like you said, we'll continue next week, and I think the sessions will become more difficult as we move on. As we move along, and then in the 3rd session we'll actually do a we'll actually do an actual case. So we'll do a past case from the Microsoft Excel World Championship and potentially also from the South African Excel Championships. So so yeah, we'll actually ramp it up a bit more. But I think fundamentals is very important when it comes to financial modeling, and thank you for sharing that. Just an observation from the table that you just did. If you had done the sequence and monthly or sequence and month term formula in row 1, it would have shown you a spill error. So we'll continue that with that discussion next week. But sometimes your table doesn't necessarily work with the new dynamic arrays. So we'll chat a bit more about that. But yeah, if you guys want to sign up and you want to learn more, please follow the QR code on the screen. And yeah, we hope to see all of you again next week. Thank you.
Unmute. Okay, great stuff. Thank you, Rainier. Keep your camera on. I've got a cool idea. We've actually got a tradition at Excel Academy for over 10 years that we've been taking a selfie with every group that we train, every group that we onboard. If we're in person, we get a selfie stick and we take it with our phone. If we're on Zoom or Teams, we take a screenshot. Now, guys, we can't see your faces because remember, this is a Zoom webinar. And by the way, we call it an X selfie. Okay, we thought that was quite clever because it's an Excel selfie. What we can do is we can see your thumbs up, your hearts, your party faces and your high fives and your hands clapping, and we can see myself and Rainier and Avi, if Avi turns his camera on as well. And what we'll do is we'll take a screenshot and that will be pretty cool. So yeah, keep those emojis coming, click them like crazy. They are flooding in, and let's do a screenshot. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's brilliant. All right, guys. So thank you again to everybody for being here. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed myself. Thank you to Avi for the support as well and the insights. Thanks, Rainier and the team at Bidvest Alice. This is exciting. There's 3 weeks to go till the first round. There's 1 week to go till session 2 of this 3-part training series. So we look forward to seeing you same time, same place, same link next week, Tuesday morning. So until then, take care. Keep practicing. Cheers for now.